Hello everyone, it's Ashwin Rao. It's been a long time since I've done one of my shoe rambling videos, but this is a video I've actually been waiting to do for some time to feature some of the up-and-coming and highest-end shoemakers in the classic menswear segment, and to compare and see what the value proposition is and what you're getting. Now I have two pairs that I want to showcase for you today. The first being this beautiful pair of chukka boots, which I consider to be essentially the nicest chukka boot in the world. Is from Acme Shoemaker. You can just see how well proportioned this particular chukka boot is, how classic its styling is, and we're going to get into the details obviously as I go through this video. But Acme is really known as one of the highest end shoemakers, certainly in the ready to wear and made to order categories, and they do everything in a hand welted, hand lasted, hand sewn, hand bottomed approach. And so really that combined with their skill, execution, and just the beauty of their shoes really puts them at the top of the tier, and a brand that others have started to shoot for. Even some of the highest end makers, well established, are recognizing the quality of what's going on at Acme. I wanted to also bring another brand to your attention today, and that is October 10th. This pair of Gurkha monk straps, which is a seamless heel monk strap constructed from two pieces of leather with a unique apron on the monk that has almost this kind of flared out V-shaped approach and a frontward facing curve to that facing that I think is just really gorgeous. A pair of Acme shoes will cost you nearly double currently as a pair of October 10th shoes. And so I wanted to get you into the details of this pair, which is also hand welted, hand lasted, hand stitched outsoles with a really beautiful approach to design and aesthetics. This comparison was initially brought up by Justin Fitzpatrick, the Shoe Snob, who in his feature of his own pair of Gurkha monk straps compared the quality of what he was seeing to equivalent to what Acme was releasing. And at least that was the implication based off of my approach to watching his video and seeing that he really said, hey, this is a shoe that's at the level of construction and quality of Acme. Now that's a big statement because Acme Shoemaker costs 2 to 3 times as much. And so that really poses a destabilizing effect to that high end of shoemaking. And that suggests that you can get something very close to an Acme level quality for a third to half of the price. And so I happen to have ordered this exact same pair, but in a deerskin leather. Now I'll say first off that these are both beautiful shoes. They're both hand welted, hand lasted, hand finished shoes with machine stitched uppers done by a small group of craftsmen in China. Acme's packaging is a little bit nicer. They have nicer shoe bags, they have a nicer presentation box, and October 10th does a really nice job with a more standard box. But if you care about that initial unveiling and presentation of your shoes, I would substantially favor Acme over October 10th, but you're gonna have to save costs in some ways. Where is the difference here? What is the value proposition? And is it really fair to consider this pair from October 10th to be the equivalent in terms of craftsmanship and execution to this pair from Acme? So let's get to it. Acme versus October 10th. For real. I'm gonna start with Acme because this is essentially considered a gold standard for quality amongst shoes. This is a pair that has a beautiful almond-shaped, slightly asymmetric last. If we pull in the details, you can see this really nicely fudged edge to the outsole with a reasonably high stitch density, I believe around 10 stitches per inch, something like that. If you pull in here, you see that stitching disappears into the waist, and this is a blind stitched waist. I confirmed with Acme that they used blind stitching to create this waist. Offset here between the waist and the heel block. Nicely beveled edge to the waist that transitions into a rounded waist here. So this is a rounded waist or a round humped waist with a beveled edge. and an offset heel block. Acme also does a really nice job creating their leather heel stack. This is a handcrafted leather stack, and you can see how even the placement of each of these pieces of leather, as well as the size and shape of this leather, there's a lot of consistency here. So if you're really getting into the details and talking about what you're spending, you're seeing, okay, a very even distribution of leather, equal sizes in terms of the height of each of these pieces of leather, really well crafted, and a nice level of detail along the edge to the fudging. Other features of this heel block, you can see a gentle taper to the edge of this block here, as well as a similar very subtle taper with a slight scalloped edge to the end of that block right there. You can also see the heeling along the edge towards where the rubber stopper on the back side of that heel is located. So you get really nice bottom work, you get really nice outsole stitching with a blind waist, and you get a beautiful last. This is a beautiful last, and one of the things that I think that Acme really excels at is the quality of their lasts. I believe this is their A12 last, and really a well executed shoe. You can see how tight and clean the edge of that heel meets the round curve of the back heel. Very well executed pair of shoes across the board. Everything is cleanly done. You see a slight asymmetry to the back of the heel, which is something that I find very beautiful. And the fit of this shoe is incredible. It fits and grips your foot when properly sized in a very comfortable way. It's got a fully lined leather inner, as well as blind eyelet and tremendous patterning to the last. You can see how well placed that hash grain pattern is. So one thing that we can't fully appreciate is that I have not worn this pair of shoes very much, but when it creases and rolls and ages, this should age in a really graceful way. Finally, Acme has done a really nice job applying a burnished shine to the toe box right here. You can see that adds a depth of color that I think is really cool. And you can see the shine applied to the heel as well as the heel block. So very well, nicely executed pair of shoes. Standard laces, nothing special there, no metal grommets or anything like that. So all in all, a really clean, elegant, beautiful design that's both understated and eye-catching at the same time. So now going to the October 10th pair, you can see that this pair comes with a shoe tree, as does this pair. I would say their shoe trees are both very nice, equivalent, standard hinged shoe trees. I didn't make a mention of that in the other shoe. Here we see their K-last, which is a sharp square last that has a little bit more elongated profile. It is a little bit more of a narrow profile as well. Also a really beautiful last that has a slight chisel to it, which you can appreciate when I show you the shoe like that. There's a slight chisel to that toe. October 10th has a smaller number of lasts across their board. They typically have their Shang last, their High last, their Pu last, and their Huang last. And this K last is a new last in their armamentarium. It fits quite well. It has a hugging heel and overall really well executed pattern. I included a metal toe plate and rubber toppy here. Similarly narrow waists to both pairs. This particular pair has a gentle fiddleback waist, and you can see a similar heel block here with a slight detailing along the edges of that. No fudge wheel detailing along the back seam here, but you get this beautiful fiddleback. You also have a very nice beveled edge to that waist. You have a similarly offset heel block. When we go to the leather heel stack here, these are thinner pieces of leather that form this heel stack. I would say there are about 6 pieces of leather that form this heel stack. They look fairly evenly spaced as well, so I would say a comparable quality here. You also see a slight pitch. October 10th tends to create more of a pitch for their heel. I actually like the Acme pitch slightly more. It's a little less overstated, a little less dramatic, but this level of pitch does work really well for this shoe. If we look closely, and it is not readily apparent on the video into this shoe, I'll pull up a photo of this. You can actually see the stitching that's recessed in this blinded waist. So for all intents and purposes, when you're looking at this shoe, this is a blinded waist. October 10th has a very similar stitch density to the Acme in their placement of stitching, as well as the fudging here. And there's also a nice transition, just like Acme, to the blinded waist. Another thing I like is the profile of this waist here that is rather flat on the Acme, and if there's a slight dip here, it almost comes in and rolls out a little bit here. But it is something that I feel like is a little more cleanly done on the Acme. Now, the rest of the shoe I'm very impressed with, but I will say that there's a few things that I noticed. When I take a look at the shoe, I think the patterning is also very well done, but I noticed from shoe to shoe, there was a slight different patterning to this leather in terms of the grain structure and the crosshatch patterning. So these shoes may actually crease slightly different over time. This particular leather has a little bit more looseness of grain, if you want to call it that, along the side paneling of the shoe, and you see nothing like that with Acme. I still think that Acme is the king of quality when you have to compare these two brands, and I think that Justin Fitzpatrick, while he was drawing attention to the quality of what October 10th is offering by comparing to Acme and saying that they equal Acme, I think that's probably not a fair statement. Acme has some very subtle details, some cleanliness of their work in terms of how they design the heel block, how they pattern the leathers on the upper, and how the leathers are clicked and ultimately laid down onto the shoe, and how some of the details along the blind waist are done, as well as the shape of that waist. I think those are a little higher level than October 10th. Now, Acme has a very, very high bar in terms of quality and consistency. They also offer a wider range of leather and a wider range of lasts, so you get a little bit more flexibility in your MTO program from Acme, and you probably get a little higher fit and finish in terms of the details. So if you're really looking for that high bar, there's a law of diminishing returns, where the more money you put in, the less you get out at that very high end, but you really are looking for perfection, and Acme really does approach that. October 10th is close. I think for a $600 to $700 shoe compared to a $2,000 or more shoe that Acme offers, October 10th's value proposition is incredible. I mean, they have essentially a blinded waist, though you can see some stitch details. They have really beautiful lasts and patterns, although they only have 5 lasts. They have a more conscribed set of leathers to offer, so a little less there. But they do a really good job with their bottoming work. They do a great job with how they pattern and design their shoes. The styles that they offer are really nice, though I think that their lasts are slightly overall less refined than what we get from Acme. Ultimately, I don't think you can go wrong with either of these pairs. They're both absolutely stunning shoes of the highest quality. And if you feel like, hey, I have a budget of less than $1,000, I would not hesitate at all to consider October 10th. Now, if you want the absolute perfection in details, Acme is right there at a very appropriate price point for what you're getting once you understand that high-end segment of cost and value at that level. I think Acme is still better. I think October 10th is incredible. Neither should be criticized for where they're placing themselves in the market. And if anything, October 10th should be commended for moving the bar ever more close to what Acme offers. October 10th, boom, Acme, boom. Beautiful shoes for this beautiful time. Hope you're doing well. I'll catch you soon. Bye.